About a month ago, we reviewed the Unity Atom from Name, and you guys had two issues with that review. The first being the Atom's price, and the second that I invoked Apple's name in describing its design and performance. Well, today we have an even more Apple-like product for you, but it's more affordable. We are diving into the Bluesound Powernode 2i with HDMI today. Let's get into it. The Bluesound Powernode 2i with HDMI is a music streaming integrated amplifier, not unlike the Unity Atom from Name. And it is very much an Apple-looking product, especially when you order it in white. It's incredibly minimal and relies almost exclusively on you being comfortable with using your smartphone as its remote, as it uses Bluesound's own app in order to get the most from its performance. Now, I say almost exclusively because there is an optional remote control, but Bluesound does play down its use quite a bit. The Powernode 2i can play back virtually any music format on the market right now, including MQA, which is what we enjoy through TIDAL. It also can access your music that may be locally stored on your network. And speaking of network, those of you who are smart home fans or aficionados will be happy to know that it is Google Home and Amazon Alexa compatible, and it can also serve as the centerpiece in any sort of connected home theater environment because it has the HDMI with eARC and eARC. So if you want to rock a 2.1 channel home theater, the Powernode 2i can be the centerpiece of that. Speaking of ecosystems and Apple, Bluesound has built itself a very nice ecosystem, and the 2i with HDMI slides perfectly into that ecosystem for pretty much plug-and-play usability. So if you want a distributed Bluesound audio system in your house, this is a great way to go about it. Now, we don't do a lot of deep dives into specs on this channel, but with products like this, specs are important, so here they are. Real quick, before we go any further with this review, anything and everything that you see flash across this screen or that we feature or talk about in these videos is always linked down in the description below. And I do mean anything and everything. So if you have a question about the TV stand, the artwork on the wall, the speaker stands, it's all down in the description below. Check it out. Let's start by taking a look at the Powernode 2i's setup and usability. The first thing that you are going to want to do before doing anything else is download the app. The app is good. It's really good. It's not quite as good as the Unity Atom, but for what it is supremely functional. It's not the most intuitive, but once you sort of get used to it, it's fantastic. And the app is the gateway to the Powernode's performance. It enables you to connect all of your favorite music streaming services natively inside the app itself. We were able to integrate our TIDAL account, and it worked flawlessly. So it is kind of nice not to have to jump back and forth between various apps. And if you want to connect it to, say, your smart television, as we did, to our 8K LG, which you can see right over my shoulder here, the HDMI, ARC, eARC functionality of the Bluesound Powernode 2i is fantastic and seamless. One little thing, though, about it, and I don't know if this is an LG thing or a Bluesound thing, but for whatever reason, when connected via HDMI, the LG does not identify the Bluesound by name the way that it does with other components that we have connected. Again, it's just a minor thing because outside of that little quibble, everything about its HDMI performance is top notch. And if you want to connect other analog or digital devices to the Powernode 2i, you're going to have to use special cables or adapters. Bluesound does include digital adapters, but not analog adapters here, which is kind of strange. But you're going to want to make those connections first in order for those inputs to then appear in the app itself, which is maybe a little bit confusing. It was for me at least. But once you make the connections, those inputs do appear on the app. And the same is true for a subwoofer. You can make the connection to your subwoofer, but then you have to go back into the app and tell the Bluesound that you are using a subwoofer before you will hear anything. In terms of sound, the Bluesound Powernode 2i has virtually no character of its own. And depending on the type of listener or enthusiast that you are, this may or may not be a good thing, which is why I'm including it in the performance and not the downside. I'm not going to say the 2i is neutral, and I'll explain in just a moment, but it doesn't impart any sort of character. So if you're one that's like, you like sound that is warmer, or you like sound that has a certain trait, you're just probably not going to find it here. But let's break it down. Let's start with the bass. The bass is firm, it is taut, but you are going to probably want to connect a subwoofer or make sure that your loudspeakers are bass capable, if you will, in order to plunge those depths, because the amplifier section is good. It is powerful enough to drive any speaker that we had in-house and any speaker that we connected to it, but it wasn't the most bass rich. So again, if you want to plunge into the basement, you probably are going to need a subwoofer that brings out that little extra bit of, oomph. In terms of mid-range, this is why I say I don't believe the 2i to be neutral. I actually think that the mid-range is ever so slightly lean and it is dry. It has plenty of detail, plenty of inflection. It lacks any sort of warmth or roundness around the edges. It sounds incredibly, well, analytical or digital, which again, depending on the type of hi-fi enthusiast you may be, this could be a good or a bad thing. At times, it's really enjoyable, but there are other recordings that I have come to learn or like with a certain sort of warmth or roundness to them, and I simply did not have it here. Now, in terms of high frequencies, same is true here. We have a lot of great detail, a lot of great top-end energy. It's not forward, it's not bright, but it does lack a certain organic, well, sheen. And at high volumes, some extra sibilance is possible. If you don't know what sibilance is that sound. Again, it's not forward, it's not aggressive, but some sibilance is possible at higher volumes or with certain types of tweeters. So be aware of that. Dynamics are good. They're not the best in class or best at this price point, but they are good, above average, and they get the job done. The soundstage is great. It is fantastic. It has great width and depth, and there is awesome delineation between the performers and instruments within that soundstage. I'm not going to say that it's 360, but it is very impressive, which leads me to the Powernode 2i's film performance through an HDMI eARC connection. It's fantastic. So this is a great product that you can use as the centerpiece of a 2.1 channel home theater system. And the dynamics and that soundstage that I just spoke about really does go a long way in creating a sort of faux surround sound experience, even though there is no surround sound DSP or decoding present here. It is strictly 2-channel, but because of the soundstage and the definition and delineation within it, it's exceptional for movies. Now, in terms of connecting other devices, be it digital or analog, we did connect our analog turntables to this. Now, you're going to have to make sure that your analog turntable either has a phono preamp built in or that you have your own third-party phono preamp as separate, as there is no phono preamp built into the Powernode 2i, which that's not surprising. Now, if you have a record collection, you like listening to records because they are a little bit on the warmer side and they have that romanticism, that organic quality, you may experience that becoming a little bit lessened through the Powernode 2i, which speaks back to what I said earlier about it doesn't have any character, but it also doesn't sort of retain some of the inherent traits of other connected devices, or maybe even your speakers themselves. And if any of what I just described sounds like a negative, I do want to assure you that it's not. It's just that this is not an amplifier that really bowls you over with any type of trait that you can kind of sink your teeth into and go, that is this product's signature, and I'm either for it or against it. It doesn't do anything wrong. It just doesn't do anything that, well, reaches out and grabs you. And so that's why I say, if you are someone that is looking for something that is more on the neutral side, as close as humanly possible to neutral, and you want an amplifier, you want a product, you want an experience that imparts no signature of its own, then this is definitely an amplifier worth considering. Let's talk about downsides. Now, if you are a person who resists smartphones, and if you are especially a hi-fi enthusiast that does not like the idea of your smartphone having to serve as the control center for any of your gear, this is not going to be the product for you, because in order to get the most out of the Bluesound Powernode 2i, you have to use the app. Yes, there's an optional remote, and Bluesound will happily sell it to you for about $60, but it basically gives you some control over volume and power, but it does not negate the need for the app. So if you are smartphone phobic, this is not going to be the product for you. Second, I want to talk about the analog and digital inputs. Yes, they are one in the same, and depending on the type of adapter that you use will signify to the app what is connected. And that is the bigger drawback here, in that you physically have to connect something to the Bluesound Powernode 2i in order for those inputs to become active and thus appear inside the app. This is pretty much kind of a 180-degree difference from how HIFI components traditionally are configured, in the sense that you see your list of inputs and then you can decide what to use or what to hide. In the case of the Powernode 2i, everything is hidden until used, and that may or may not be confusing for some users. Next, I want to talk about the Bluesound's top-mounted controls. Yes, there are a few physical controls, and they will work in a pinch in terms of play, pause, volume, things like that. I just wish that there was a little bit more feedback so that you knew when you touched it, you were actually affecting any sort of change. Obviously, with play, pause, you know when it's working. Music will be playing and then it will stop. But in terms of volume, the volume increments are so subtle on the Bluesound that you're likely going to be doing this for a while before you realize or notice any sort of noticeable change. And lastly, because the Bluesound Powernode 2i is on the extremely compact side, if you use thicker cables or audiophile hi-fi cables that are heavier, cable management does become a bit of an issue on that small back panel. And if your cables are on the heavier side, it is possible to get this little thing to do a wheelie. In terms of comparable products, obviously we were going to compare this to our name Unity Atom, and I got to tell you, they're not really comparable. Okay, on paper they offer largely the same feature sets, enabling you to connect to your digital music, blah, blah, blah. And so in that regard, the Bluesound Powernode 2i manages to get about 90% of the functionality, if you will, of the Unity Atom correct. But it is not the same experience, and it is definitely not the same sound. And I just prefer the Unity Atom over the Bluesound here. But that being said, it is an extremely budget-friendly alternative that manages to get about 80% of the performance of the Unity Atom right. In comparison to the Cyrus One Cast that we reviewed just a couple of weeks ago, the Powernode 2i is the superior product through and through, save for one thing, and that is the amplifier section. The Cyrus's amplifier is that product's saving grace, and I do consider it to be superior to the Bluesound here. But on a whole, if you were to ask me which one I would rather have, I would actually side with the Bluesound Powernode 2i in this instance. For a truly budget alternative to the Bluesound Powernode 2i, I have to call out the eARC A50. Again, they have largely the same feature sets, but the eARC, much like how the Bluesound compares to the name, the eARC is just not as elegant a solution as the Powernode 2i. But that said, if you're really tight on cash, you can do a lot of the same things with the eARC A50 that you can with the Powernode 2i. Lastly, we have to address the elephant in the room, and that is the NAD M10. No, I don't have it. No, I have not listened to it. But I have to get a couple of things off my chest, because a lot of you feel very strongly about this product, and you sort of position it as like this budget champion, and I'm sorry, I just don't see it. At $2,700, $2,800, I don't see it as that much more affordable than a name Unity Atom. And so, yeah, if you have NAD M10 money, it's likely you have Unity Atom money. And in my opinion, you're going to buy the Unity Atom, because that's really what the M10's trying to be. But if you're looking for a Unity Atom on a budget, I think it's the Powernode 2i. And the Powernode 2i likely, and on paper, gives you a lot of the same performance as the M10. Hell, the M10 uses Bluesound technology in it in order to interface with all of your favorite music. So knowing that, why not get something a third the price in the Bluesound Powernode 2i? So yes, if I get the M10, I may be coming back to you and making a whole new review and a mea culpa with both feet in my mouth while eating a hat. But for now, I don't see it. And if it were me and I'm trying to save money, I'm going to get the Bluesound. So in conclusion, while there are aspects of the Powernode 2i's sound that you may be scratching your head about going, I don't know if Andrew likes this or not, understand that sound is subjective and one's take of sound is largely subjective. And so I'm not faulting the Bluesound Powernode 2i. If you are someone that wants a more neutral sounding amplifier, one that is a little bit more on the, well, colorless side, this is obviously going to appeal to you. But you know what? Music, for me at least, and movies also, they're an emotional experience. And so I do kind of look for products that sort of reach out and touch me in some unique way. And I just, as much as I wanted that to occur here, it just didn't really happen for me. It didn't really matter what I paired to it either. And we used a wide range of other associated equipment as well as loudspeakers with this amp. And while it always sounded good, it always sounded actually better than good, almost, great. All intents and purposes, it was great. It didn't connect. And that could be me. That could be a me thing and not a you thing or a universal thing. So I'm trying to choose my words very carefully here because I do understand that listening and listening experiences are subjective. And just in my opinion, it didn't hit here, but I can't actually fault it for doing anything overtly wrong. But apart from its sound, its functionality is awesome. It's absolutely awesome. And I have no doubt that at this price point, because it is far more approachable than the NAD M10 and far more approachable than even the Unity Atom, that it's going to be popular in hi-fi and audiophile circles. Hell, we already know that it is because Bluesound has such a following among enthusiasts. And I love the inclusion of HDMI, and I think that this is a feature that a lot more products are going to have moving into the future because it enables products like this to serve as the centerpiece of a 2.1 channel home theater. And if you're tight on space, tight on money, you can have a home theater with a mere 2.1 channels. And it works great. It works great. We've enjoyed a number of films this way, and I see us enjoying a number of films this way into the future. So that's it. That is my review of Bluesound's Powernode 2i. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you liked this video, you liked this review, please do give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. And if I can have just a little bit more of your time, if you are looking for ways to support this channel or support other YouTubers in general right now, the easiest, most effective way to do this is to turn off your ad blocker and sit through the ads. I know none of us like ads. I don't like having to put them on our content, but it really is the only way that we are able to bring you this type of content with any regularity the way that we do. And I'm sure the same is true for any number of YouTubers that you watch on a regular basis. So just throwing that out there, a little public service announcement. But if you are interested in other ways of supporting this channel, check out our membership program. You can click join right next to subscribe down below and read all about our membership tiers. Follow me on Instagram at Recovering Audiophile, and I think that does it. So remember, the only person that has to like the sound of your system is you. So happy listening, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye. Raising a barn? Okay. The PowerSound 2i also can play.
Power mode.
Power mode, jeez. Power node.
Node.
Not mode.
Ooh, did you say mode the
I
first
don't know.
time?
Now I have to start all over. Power node. About a month ago, we reviewed the name Unity Atom, and I don't know how else to say it. That's what it's called. It's called the name Unity Atom. Okay. Don't get started with me already.
But see how you just said it? It's the
name Unity Atom.
Yeah. You talk like this sometimes when I think that you're not quite sure what you're going to say.
I know exactly what I'm going to say. Right now, I'm talking faster, probably the way that you want me to, because I am annoyed that you don't like the way that I say.
No, I don't want
Unity. Be annoyed. Okay.
That's your motivation.